we don't know anything about the unknown. We don't know what we don't know. We know that we're going to have to learn stuff that we don't know that we need to learn. And so what does that look like? But like, think about how far we've come with anything we've wanted to learn. If we wanted to learn it, we figured it out. We found resources to figure it out. Maybe it wasn't from us. Maybe it was from an external source. Maybe it's from research, like whatever the case may be, we figured it out.
The Side Hustler's Perspective podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, getting out of your own way, and growing your creative business.
Peggy, the Pigeon letters, how are you doing today? It's good to see you and finally get to connect with you outside of like a typical structured call.
I know. It's great. I'm doing splendid. How are you doing this day?
I am doing good. And we're speaking like future tense. So we are recording during the holidays, but this is coming out way later. So we have to like, oh, hey, I can't promote something that's happened.
Gosh, can you believe how warm it is outside right now? It's wild.
Where are you at?
I'm future me. Obviously.
Future. Okay. So if someone's listening in the summertime to listen back on this, I'm like, oh yeah, I was beautiful, but right now it's frigid and freezing.
Oh man, can you believe all the cherry blossoms?
Can you believe all the corn is starting to sprout around here? Like cherry blossoms. It's Iowa over here, and the cattle's out rolling around.
I'm an off-topic person, but I just have to share that this morning I was going through my videos because I was looking at that year in review thing, and I was like, it's this morning. I'm not supposed to be out of bed yet. And I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I came across this video that was way older from last year. And I don't know if she'll like that I'm sharing this, but Laura, my wife, she planted some corn in our backyard.
Some corn.
She was like, yeah. So it was like growing kind of. And then we made, I don't know, it's not even funny now that I start to tell the story, but I'm committed. So I have to go through with it. But we were joking around in this video talking about how we were charging admission for our corn maze. But it's not even funny. It's just, wow, that I had to bring that up because you mentioned corn. Now everybody knows that I am the only one that thinks anything I do is funny, and that's okay. I'm okay. I laugh at my own story.
One may say that's corny. Ooh, dad jokes, killing it.
You brought it back around, and you saved it.
Have you ever been through a corn maze, a real corn maze?
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. That's why it's funny, Scotty.
Okay, so you're Pacific though, right? So
yeah.
All right, I don't know if there's like corn mazes and stuff over in the West Coast.
That's fair. There are.
You have like the massive trees,
Yeah, that's true. But we have holiday time is super fat. Like we have all the corn mazes, we have all the pumpkin patches and tree whatever.
I'm just not accustomed to the West Coast culture. I'm sheltered over here.
No,
I'm like, oh, it's all palm trees and beautiful, and maybe you have some pumpkins, but okay. At least you don't get snow.
Wait, no. You're thinking California, like you're thinking specific area of.
I'm
California.
Labeling the whole West Coast as warm.
Okay, so no, if you were to think of, let's see. How do you picture London weather to be? Because I live in Portland, Oregon.
Gross you're Portland. That's right. Okay. So you in Seattle area.
Seattle, Portland.
Okay. So I label Seattle like London.
Yeah.
Warm or not warm, gross, gloomy.
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Okay. Do you get snow?
It's gray. It's dark. I mean, we have beautiful all 4 seasons. We do. But if we're going to be honest,
get snow in Portland.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
All right. Okay. I'm clearly I have never been there.
There's not a palm tree in sight.
Okay. Yep. I'm thinking like West Coast, just everything on the coastal line.
Everything is LA.
Everything is LA. My aunt lives in San Francisco, and it's like cold every time I've been there.
Yeah. See, you know better.
All right. Back on track now that I sound like an absolute fool.
I did this to us.
Well, this show is a lot about tangents, and somehow I have to like get myself back on track. So for those who may not know about you and your crafty soul, can you give us a brief Wikipedia page summary about yourself?
Absolutely. I'm really bad at it. So here we go. I'm going to shoot. Peggy Dean. Hi. I'm an author and educator and artist, not in that order, actually exactly the opposite. I find my passion, I'm self-taught. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I enjoy oversharing. It's my favorite thing in the whole world. Because I'm an overachiever and an activator, if you will, I have forced, I'll say forced creativity upon other people through methods of teaching online. And also I think it's safe to say that I'm a good cheerleader. But yeah, I think, what's my elevator pitch? Okay. I do a lot of things. Those types of things. Wow. It's not good. It's not coming out well. That's all right.
You do a lot of things, educator, teacher, author. And a lot of the things that I was going to say here today was literally, I'm reading from a line in my note. You do a lot of things where most professionals preach to hyper niche down and position yourself as a specialist. Yep. But then I want to pivot. On your website, you talk about tapping into your own version of success by breaking rules.
Yeah.
So,
because I think like we do exactly what you said. I think that we are all as creative. So I'm an artist first, fine art, but then also, I don't know, illustration, the calligraphy, it goes all over the place. But point is, I have a lot of interests and I didn't feel like niching. I didn't want to. I do think that there is a beautiful part about that. So when I say don't niche, it doesn't necessarily mean don't niche, but it means don't box yourself in, because you're going to be so hyper focused on trying to find what that, end of the road looks like, that you're going to be oblivious to the windows and the pathways that are kind of side trails, if you were, that might lead you to another big road that you didn't know you would go on. Like, I didn't know I was going to be an author. It was just like, I saw an opportunity. I'm like, I'm going to just start writing this and we'll see what happens. And I figured it out, So, yeah, I don't really believe in traditional ways of anything. I've been called defiant. I can't work for people because I have ideas and I don't like it when they're not heard. And it's not that I'm to say like my ideas are the only ideas by any means. I just want to be heard. I have good ideas. I like to brainstorm. I like to break mold. Let's see how we can do this. And so that's kind of where I thrive, is in brainstorming and being around people who share that mindset. So yeah, I mean, exactly.
I would say the listeners here, my own mentality is go against the grain, defiant, blaze your own path against the traditional way of thinking. Yeah. And I would say that's what we're molding here with the people who listen. So that's why I vibe to what you do. Break the rules. I like to know the rules so then you can bend and break them. Totally. And here it's like, okay, the most go against the grain thing you can do is bet on yourself with a side hustle and avoid the trap of you have to build someone else's dream until you can build your dream when you're in your 60s and retired. Like that is what gets me boiled. Like I saw my parents buy into that. Yeah. And through society's norm, they attempted to get me to buy into that because they thought that was the route, like get the nice job, the mortgage, the wife, the kids, the family, and then retirement. That's where it's at. We live to retire. I'm like, oh, that just doesn't settle.
It's sad, but I think it makes sense because everything that we do is based off of emotion. More of what we do is based off of fear. So the fear of not having, security, like it makes sense. We know we have job security in a job. We know that along that job comes something that's reliable, that is stable, that's constant. Maybe it comes with insurance, maybe it comes with perks, but it's something you can rely on. The structure is all there. You have your 9 to 5 or whatever the hours are. You have, times, but everything is predictable. There's no guesswork. There's no fear. So I think that is, you hear anybody, and it's at this point, people have followed my journey enough, and people who are like invested in my community and whatnot and learn this stuff, they say like, okay, Peggy, I figured it out. At this point, it's just mindset that's getting in my way. And it's like, yeah, it is. It's 100%. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. Forgive yourself, allow yourself, give yourself grace through these thoughts and feelings, because like, yeah, it's, I don't know if
you can scary. Swear, fucking A, you can swear, say whatever you want here.
It's scary. And it's like, we don't know anything about the unknown. We don't know what we don't know. We know that we're going to have to learn stuff that we don't know that we need to learn. And so what does that look like? But like, think about how far we've come with anything we've wanted to learn. If we wanted to learn it, we figured it out. We found resources to figure it out. Maybe it wasn't from us. Maybe it was from an external source. Maybe it's from research, like whatever the case may be, we figured it out. And so when it comes to our energy and the things that we find, curious, like I know money's a thing and I know survival is a thing. We're survivalist mammals, right? So yeah, the lack of stability, if you will, the lack of security, that's terrifying because are we going to, does that mean we die? No, it doesn't mean we die. But it could mean like, oh, now I can't provide for my family because I don't have this reliable income. Oh, now I can't do X, Y, Z. And that's why, I love that yours is molded in a side hustle, what you are preaching, because it does have to start that way. And it is going to be harder work because it's going to start that way. But guess what? All of us started that way. So it's just a matter of like trusting that when we give a little bit more here, we might take away a little bit more here, or maybe we have to stretch ourselves super thin. But when you put your energy into whatever it is that you desire so very much, you'll see the efforts pay off. Like it might be small at first because that's all you're able to give. And then I know I'm going on a tangent, but I just want to piggyback with like, it doesn't really stop being a lot of work, like it's always going to be a lot of work because you're the one defining what it is. And the panic and fear and achiever in us, we're like, well, we have to have a next step, but then we have to have a next step after that. But then this thing over here has to have a next step. And like, that's the way our minds work because you don't have a choice but to think that way when you're an entrepreneur. So it's not like you're thinking the wrong things. It's not like, oh, well, maybe I should be thinking about this, but I don't know what that thing is yet. And nobody's guiding me and nobody's holding my hand to tell me what I need to be thinking about and then how to actually do the thing. Like, that's not how it works. Like you're in the right place. All these thoughts, that's exactly where you should be. Like you're
playing this game is supposed to be a mind fuck.
Yeah. Like you're in it. So I'm in it right now. I'm in it all the time.
I'm in it right now too. And I think the main thing I am at the end of the day, I'm an artist. I can help people market themselves and build profitable side hustles, but I'm like, you can't get there without mindset and personal development in yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's the work I try to work on most with people. You want all these external results. You want to do your thing full time. You want the big clients. You want the big names. You want to be sustainable. You want to do this on your own terms, building your own empire. But you have zero foundation built. You don't know yourself in your work. You're not ready to embrace the unknown or put that energy and effort in because it's scary.
But the thing about that too is, like, you don't have to know all this. You don't have to even know what your style is. If you just want to be like, a graphic designer, if that's like your main goal, like you're like, oh, I haven't figured out like what makes me stand out yet. I still have not figured out what makes me stand out. And I'm very successful.
It's like you have to be willing to struggle and stumble and stick with it.
And I feel like every single year I have this like epiphany, like I found my voice, and it like pivots a different direction. I'm like, I found it again. Like
it's like a steady evolution.
Yeah. And that's okay.
It's like, seasons and cycles. Like one year I'm like on top of it. And then this year specifically, you kind of want to wrap this in when I was on a call with you, Tom Ross, and Becca, the Happy Ever Crafter. And I finally just like opened up because I'd been bottling it up in a while and, giving tough love and empowerment to my students. But man, I was starting to just like open up like, wow, I've been bottling up how much I realized my business was driven on fear, scarcity, and lack, comparing myself to like what you or Becca or Tom are doing, which is healthy in a sense, but also extremely toxic if I let it get to a certain point. It's not like driving and competitive and like, I'm very motivated by them. It's like, I'm paralyzed. I was just beating myself up with how much I had on my plates, how worn down I was, burnout. Yeah. And you came in just flying in like the Peggy, the Pigeon you are. And, like lifted me up as we talked about like fear and not being so hard on ourselves. I would love to, if you could dive deeper more into that, especially through the lens of your own experience?
Yeah. Well, firstly, when we compare ourselves, it's like, what do they say? Competition or no, comparison is the
greatest
thief of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I believe it. I'm not super cheesy and refer to all the quotes all the time, but I do think that is very legit. Okay. One of the things that I love so much about being able to connect with people that they might not be, riding the exact same path, but they're still in the same type of structure. Like I would be lying if I said when I hear, because for those who don't know, Scotty and Tom and I and Becca were in a mastermind together. And I'd be lying if I said some things that didn't come out. I'm like, ooh, shoo, I'm super far from that. But I think that the best part of it is that when we actually say it, we're all feeling and struggling with the same thoughts because we are in our process. And when we don't see instant results, but all we hear from other people are the results or like the highlight reel or like, this is what I did. This is what I saw from it. And this is where I'm at. And this is where my growth is and can be, whatever. When we see that, it's like, oh my gosh, why am I not performing at X level? Well, because you're working on like something huge that you're working on. I hear every day from people like, Peggy, do you ever sleep? How do you have time to do all the things? And I'm over here thinking like, I straight up, like, I made some brooms. Like I don't make brooms. And I made like 5 brooms the other day because I was like, I feel like being creative. Then I made some candles. Like, I have time. It's like, we forget that how long it took people to get established. It's like you said, the foundation that doesn't come overnight. So every single leg or arm of our business, we have already set a foundation for. And it's not like, oh, well, we're already here because we didn't know. It's not that. Like I'm still building a foundation. I just had my scariest launch I've ever had, which was my very first high ticket item it's called Creative Course Lab for people who want to create online courses that actually are like make a huge impact and sustain long-term instead of being, a wash within all the other courses out there. And that's where I made my mark. It's landed me. I'm not going to go on brag story time. But it's gotten me pretty far. And that was scary because this is my first foundation for a high ticket item. It was very scary. I didn't know how it was going to perform. Everybody's used to Friday freebies from me. You know what I mean? Everything has been very accessible. Not to say this course is not accessible. The price point is really good for what it is, but it's a high ticket item, like it's an investable thing. So it took me 5 years before I got down that route. It took me a long time to realize like, hey, you need to figure out who you need your target market to be. Like, who is your target person? Who is your target audience? If I had focused more on that in the beginning than trying to reach everybody, like if you want to talk about niche down on who you're reaching, niche down on who it is, because they might have all those interests too. When it comes to like fear, like the biggest thing that's going to happen is that we ruminate or we distract ourselves or we procrastinate work. I know there's probably another word for that, but I'm guilty of it. And it's like, oh, I need to do this thing, but it makes me feel uncomfortable. So instead, I'm going to totally reorganize my Google Drive. Like I'm working and I'm doing things. It makes me feel better. I feel super organized. But at the same time, it's like, I actually didn't make any progress on the thing that's holding me back. And I think that that's really easy for a lot of us to encounter. So one of the things, and I think one of the things that will help the most with people who have like that stifled feeling, because that's all we do. We just freeze. We freeze and nothing happens. And what do they say? Nothing moves if nothing moves, or nothing happens if nothing, whatever. The best way that I have conquered this and helped other people conquer this is by telling them like, hey, you need to set your own structure because you don't have anybody telling you what this structure is. If somebody told you what your deadlines were, if they told you what your tasks were, if they told you what your hours were, then you would do it. You would get so much of this done because it's not falling on you. You're just going with the flow of what you know you need to do. So when we can set that for ourselves, whether that be on a physical planner, whether it be on Asana or Trello, whatever the case may be, put your end goal there. End goal done, and work backwards. So you have your end goal, you have a date, and then set 4 milestones. I'm just throwing that number out. You can set as many as you want, but let's go with 4. And then within those milestones, those are separated by time, and you have a timeline. And then within those milestones, you set small tasks. And then all of a sudden, that small task is all you need to work on that week. That's it.
Literally what I do with my students to break it down. Like the book that changed the game for me is The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's like, here's your one
hearing about that.
Oh man, it's basically that. Like, here's the one thing you want to accomplish during this season. Yeah. Here's the one thing during this month, but here's the one thing each week that leads you to that. And here's the one thing each day that leads you to that. And here's the one task in each day that then leads you to that.
Yep.
It does simplifying and building that roadmap.
Yeah, it does take planning, but at the same time, like, set a goal. Like, you have 4 days to set this plan in place. And that might not seem like you're doing anything because you're just spending time planning, but guess what? It's more than you would have done otherwise. I can guarantee you that. And then you have structure. And we need, like, we were born into structure. We're disciplined enough, even the rebellious ones like us, to where we do need structure. That's the way our brains work. Like, so when we set it for ourselves, it's going to set us up for a lot more success otherwise. And I'm speaking from experience, like, I'm impulsive. I'm super impulsive. I want to do a launch. So I whip something out in a weekend and I call it a launch. And is it as successful as if I had planned it? No, but that's just like my MO. Scotty, you're the same way.
I'm pretty impulsive. I'm going to do a crypto 101 webinar here. I'll put it together in a week. I'm like, there's so many other things I should have been doing.
Right. And it's great. But then it's like, how did that affect my bottom line? Like, what? Yeah. Yep. What is this going to do here?
Was this actually a distraction, or was this a seed to something bigger?
Yeah.
Can I learn and teach from it?
Yeah. Which isn't a bad thing. Like, I think that we should definitely listen to our ideas. And I think that having a place to write them down, and sometimes we write them down and never revisit them. But sometimes we're like, Opportunity City, what can I do next? And you can revisit those. But I do think there's a time and a place to take action when it comes. I do believe that.
Acting when the muse hits you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So that's
the artist in me that I'm learning to listen to more after, like, suppressing it. I'm like, no, it's business, structure, habits, disciplines. But then the artist in me, I was supposed to clean up the kitchen last night. I was like, wifey, I got you. You go do your thing, get wrap hop presents. And I'm going to do this. But then an idea hit me. The world is a mirror, and I've had this idea all day, and I opened a fresh new sketchbook and I took 30 minutes to sketch out an idea. She came downstairs, was like, I thought you were going to do all this. I'm like, I will, but I had to act in this moment right now.
Yeah.
I have to feed that artist in me at times.
You have to, like, that's the thing. And it's funny because we have these blocks, especially as creatives, we have blocks, and it might last months, especially when you're juggling a business where you haven't touched any, like, outlet as far as it comes to creation, not content creation, but like actual creation. I mean, I feel like I go on 2 months and then I have like a few days where I give myself now, and then 2 months and then a few days. And that's just my balance at the moment. I'm fine with it. That's just what's coming to me. But when it comes to me, I'm like, this has to,
and it's something for you. Down. It's just for you. It's not for anyone else. If you decide to create content from it, cool. But it's not like, here's an intentional piece I have to,
and I'll tell you what,
the Instagram or build into a funnel.
Every single time I try something new, and every single time it comes out so much, like, I just feel it more. It makes me feel better. It's like a reset. People go to the coast for like that. Okay, the ocean is so big.
Where the palm trees are, actually.
Huh?
Where the palm trees are?
Yeah,
actually?
where the palm trees are.
Okay. Not
it's
corn
like
mazes.
You need to wear a parka, but yeah. But people do, and they do the compare. I mean, sorry for everybody who doesn't live by the coast. I grew up here. It's just like what you do when you need to reset, recharge. It's giving yourself, or going to the forest, or going to nature, whatever. It's a reset, and we need resets because we need to come back into we need to walk away. Oh, that's what I was going to say about productivity though. Another thing, because when we work on this, whether we have structure or not, we still have these underlying feelings. We still have like those moments where we take a break and we're sitting on the toilet and we're scrolling and we're seeing everybody's stuff. And we're just like, what's the point when these people are like, social media is a highlight reel. Let's be like, come on. Mm-hmm. It's a highlight reel and no
facade of false perceptions of how people want you to think their lives are lived.
Yeah. And no offense to us as people who are mentors, but like same thing with coaches. Like I can say this because I am in that space too. Like you're going to see the like, no bullshit, here's a tip, thinking like, oh, we've got it all figured out. And we sure don't. We just really want to be able to like have a light bulb in some way that's going to affect somebody else positively. Because guess what? I have an ego. And if I can help, I truly do get great joy out of helping people, but it also fills me because that's something that like, I need like that. I need to be able to make that impact. That's success to me.
That's success to me too. Doing work you love that makes an impact on people you truly give a shit about. To me, that is like my own definition of success.
Right. And then it's like that passion that you share. And like, there's no one that understands that like this community, you know what I mean? But what I was going to say about that is like, yeah, those intermittent times are going to come in your work day. It doesn't matter how structured, how perfect your plan is. Like these are thoughts that we all ruminate over all the time, or we get sucked down our own drain, which is why I wanted to mention, like, there are apps, there are alarms, like I don't know. I just assume everybody uses an iPhone, which I know is not true, but Apple products, I'm sure that other products do too, have, different levels of do not disturb where the things that need to come through can come through, but like getting rid of distractions while setting time. Like, let's say I have this big production to work on, but I also am feeling really creative. And then I'm also wanting to, chip away at a client project. Let's say I'm going to work on all those things in a day. And the reason why, and I didn't used to be this way. I used to bulldoze through like a big thing so I could get a lot of it done. But the reason why is because, studies say this, but I don't do it for studies' sake. I do it because I am so much more, not just productive, but effective in what I'm working on when I take breaks. And when I can visit that thing with a fresh mind every time that I approach it. So if that means I have 2 or 3 hours to work on that thing, and then I have to have a hard stop or just find a stopping point, I do it, even though it hurts and it feels gross to tear myself away from it, because I know that tomorrow, or maybe it's 3 hours from now and I return to it. When I do that, I have a fresh mind again. I'm not sucked too far down that tunnel. And I know that seems counterproductive for a lot of people who feel like you're on a roll, but I'm like the queen of tunnel vision. I get it. But that, and maybe people disagree with me, and that's fine. I
would have disagreed with you at the beginning of the year until I hired my own like nutrition and training coach.
Yeah.
And now if I don't like take like a walk or a break throughout the day and I just grind, I feel worn down, but I go and take a quick walk around the block, like a quick mile or so.
Yeah.
I come back, I'm just way more dialed in. But at the beginning, I'll be like, so you're telling me I need to leave work and I'm not going to miss work. I'm not missing out on opportunities to make money, to feed this starving artist's fear and lack and scarcity that I have to be dialed into the matrix 24/7. Like, no, I 100% agree now.
Yeah. And I think that's where like, what is it called? The book, One Thing?
The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Just the one thing. Okay.
Just the one thing.
It reminded me.
Not the two things.
Yeah.
One thing.
Well, it reminded me though of like my process, and I know it's the one thing, but how about like you said, the one task at a time? Hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying the 3 things, but I am saying, obviously the one thing at one time. I totally am on that. I want to read this book. I've heard wonderful things, but everybody has their thing. But at the end of the day, we've worked on whatever we've worked on. And I've found my own balance by telling myself, what 3 bottom lines did I chip away at today is as an overview to make myself feel like I have achieved, because I don't know if you've taken Gallup Strengths Finder, Clifton Strengths now.
Yep.
Yeah. So my top, I've taken it 5 times over the years, because I just want to see like where I'm at, how accurate is this, blah, blah, blah.
Initiative has to be one of your strengths then.
No, it's not. But Achiever is. Achiever.
Okay.
And Activator. But the thing I like about Achiever is when you read more into the text of it, it says like you start every day at 0 and you have to reach 100 at the end of the day. You have to, or you feel unsatisfied. And then you go to bed, you wake up the next day and you're at 0 again. But like you did not make any, like, that's how we feel. Like, and it's so true. When I read that, I'm like, it's so true. I can accomplish the biggest, most awesome thing I've ever done the day before. And the next day,
what's next?
Yeah. And it's not like post-launch depression, which we've all, talked about, or it's not that. It's that I have to achieve every day. So I know not everybody feels that way, but one of the reminders I like to give myself that will remind myself that I was productive, that I did do things, is I do an overview and I'm like, what, even if I did more or less, and I think, what 3 things did I work on today that were effective in like getting me to my next step in my goal? And maybe that is, but I also balance it with my personal life. So if I did laundry, knowing I've been sitting on laundry for 2 weeks, like that's one of my things. And I'm okay with
me last night. I hate laundry.
I know. Yeah. Like I used to love it, but now that I'm entrepreneur spirit, I don't like doing anything that's
like, I'd rather, who can I hire to mow my lawn so I can keep grinding?
Yes.
That's me.
100.
And people think I'm crazy. And I'm like, but you don't own your own business. My brain doesn't shut off. There's an opportunity going all the time.
Yeah.
So mow my lawn for an hour versus like paying someone and then I could do this and build something else.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes those breaks are good. Like, oh man, I know. That's how I am about showering. I'm clean.
Why can't someone shower for me?
Well, it's like you have to wash your hair. Like I take baths every day almost. And like, I'll wash my bits, but I don't want to take a full shower. That's chore. But then you get in the shower and it's like, this is amazing. Sorry guys. I'm not, I'm an oversharer. It's fine.
Me too. I'm glad I'm not the only one who'll cross a line here.
I'll cross every line. It's me. You take it or leave it. There's no secrets here. Yeah. But like, sometimes it's like, okay, I edited XYZ. I spent time editing. Like that's progress. It doesn't matter how much you did. It doesn't matter if it's done. Progress, those 3 things. That's what I do at the end of the day to remind myself like, hey, you were effective, even though you're not like a solid stepping stone to the next point. Like that was actually really effective. And it really does calm me. I'm like, oh, cool. I can play.
You have your own, sorry to interrupt, please.
No, I was just going to say now I can play my Nintendo because I'm an adult. So
you feel like you earned that reward. But right. I think what you're saying here, we'll just like recap some really, really, really important takeaways here. I think the difference between a hobbyist and a professional is structure, but also as a professional or aspiring entrepreneur is having that structure, but letting impulsivity or impulsiveness, I don't know if either of those are a word, but letting room for that impulsive side of you has been big. And I've blocked that out. That's a big learning lesson from this year. So I really like that you capture that, as well as, yeah, you can read these books, The One Thing, Essentialism, Deep Work, whatever. You could read all these books, leverage what they say, but at the end of the day, find a system or process that works for you. Leverage what you learn, but you have a system, like a little checkoff system. If I did these 3 things today, I was effective. And mine's like, I go into each day, here's my little system. If I accomplish at least this one thing, that's a win. And here's like my backup 3 priorities and then laundry, or something like that. But like at the end of the day, if I can check off at least that number 1 thing, that's a productivity high for me. I felt like I showed up and I moved the needle forward. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. I think that the breaks I just want to come back to it because it's so neat. And that doesn't mean social media break. It does not mean get on social media and scroll, because innately we will always start comparing, always. And I think of social media. Oh, that's another thing though about social media is people think that that's where you're going to find success in what you're doing. And I find that the way that 5 years ago, absolutely, that's where a lot of reach was able to go. But the way that things are moving, algorithm, all the things that people complain about, I think at the end of the day, it's where our connections are and it's where like-minded creatives are, which is great. But I think seeking validation to get your needle moving for your profits it needs to be elsewhere. So when we're taking breaks, social media is the exact opposite of that, in my opinion. And I bring that up only because I know that it's a place like, yeah, you do need to post to it and it does need to be consistent. So it's like that's kind of backwards, right? It's not. I think that existing places online and having 3 primary areas is good. And yeah, Instagram is one of mine, but you're on rented land. We don't have any control over it. So because of that, I just think go on a walk around the block, go, I don't know, do some jumping jacks, go pet your dog, go make yourself some coffee and don't just rush back with the coffee, sit outside for a minute. Something you said about dishes though, I find that it's like dishes, shower, and driving are when I get big ideas. And I resist those 3 things more than anything. And sorry that shower is one of them. I promise I'm clean.
You take baths, you're good.
But that's where I get my biggest ideas because I'm stuck with my thoughts. I'm not stuck, I'm not stuck filling the time with scrolling. Because think about when we switch tasks, I pick up my phone. If I have to go to the bathroom, which is just right around, I don't even have time to look, but I find time to look. And if I'm going to, we don't give ourselves time to just be still. And I think the fear comes from overconsumption. So there's a quote. So I know there's think about, we always hear community over competition. Great. Replace that for yourself with creation over consumption. And when I put that for a long time on my lock screen of my phone. I put it on my wall and I kid you not, it stopped. It was the one thing that actually got me to stop and pause and think, I'm not going to open this. I'm going to do something for me right now. And I felt so much more enriched. You ask anybody that has ever taken a hiatus or a break. A lot of times it's this time of year, where I'm speaking in the past if you're listening.
We just finished up 2021. We're in January now. Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of times that's when people will take a break, but ask anybody and they come back and they just who cares about Instagram? What is work, And it's because they've gotten that reset. I think it all stems, I'm bringing it back to fear and being stifled and rumination and the things that get in our way. It is mindset. It's us. And so okay, I'm just going to scenario this. Let's say you want to do a thing. You don't know what that thing is. I have to pull an example because otherwise it's not tangible for people. Let's say that your side hustle is that you want to give me an example.
Start a podcast, start a YouTube channel.
There we go. Let's say both of those things, because that's a high achiever mindset of I need to spread myself thin. How do I start any of this stuff? So.
Oh, that describes me. How the hell do I spread myself too thin today? I got it. That's oh my God, professional Superman syndrome over here. That's me.
So yeah. And then what you do is you listen to all of this additional content so that you can take notes, which is great. But I think if you've thought about doing a thing, you have plenty of information about the thing already that's inside of you. And the best thing to listen to is your response to it. So when we read something, if we just are mindful about our own reaction, whether it be like inspiration, whether it be an opinion, that's where our gold is, because it comes from within us. It's not something that somebody else is doing. And we have to trust that within ourselves, because that's where you're going to thrive. You can't speak on what somebody else has said or displayed the way that you can speak on the things that you innately feel that, stem from within. So it's a lot of self-trust. And I know it's scary because we see what has been successful in other people, but like they already do what they're doing well. Like they are already better at being them than you ever will be. And think about how much this is hard for people to hear, because it's like, well, what is my personality? Like I'm growing, I don't know, but there's nobody on the planet who will deliver the way that you will. Nobody. And it might take a minute to like really step into those shoes, because like you haven't yet. And so you have to find your bearings. Like think about riding a bike, think about walking, you watch a kid start to walk and it's like, that's going to take a minute. It's
what they're trying.
They're trying and then they do it. And then guess
my daughter didn't care. She's going to bust her lip. She falls down every night as she's like mastering how to run now. It's
so great to use kids as an example for creativity too. I know that's kind of off topic, but like I see it every day. Yeah. They dive in. They don't even think. You give them a crayon, they're drawing already. Like it doesn't matter. They don't think about the color they're going to use. Like they just dive in, and it's beautiful to watch, because guess what? We all have an inner child, and we've been conditioned to quiet that child. Ursula K. Le Guin, the creative adult is the child who survived, is one of my favorite quotes. It's exactly that. But anyway, my point of this is to say, what do you want to do? Like pick 3 topics and roll with those topics. It doesn't mean you have to have a podcast every single week when you start. You don't. You can have it be monthly. People think about this when they want to start an email newsletter. It's like, oh, well, I know I need an email list. Everybody keeps saying that. I know that that's where like my people will be, but I don't have consistent content to give them. Guess what? That's going to be great for them, because it means that one less email will show up and they know you're not going to bombard them every single day. The point is, you can set expectations. And like, I have a friend who sends out quarterly newsletters and people love them. They look forward to them. She puts a lot of effort into them. They're beautifully done. Like she's got categories. She says so in the beginning. She's like, here's what we're going to cover in this newsletter. She also lets people know, like in her opt-in, that she's always going to send it late, and she does. And she's like normal, this is going out 2 weeks late, but here's why, and she's just purely herself. So I know finding your voice can be really difficult, but I think that's what it comes down to: creation over consumption. You're not going to know what that looks like for yourself if you keep thinking about what you need to be or what you should be, or, how can someone else lead me to this space of success? Like everybody who I know who is successful followed their own avenue. And that's easier said than done for those of us who are achievers, who have made it, whatever you want to call it. But I promise you that every single person who has made it to that point still is like, how do I do this next thing? I don't know. I don't have guidance. I'm comparing myself to this. Like we all do. It doesn't matter. You're never going to feel like you've made it, which is why for people like me, give yourself little moments of celebration. And if that means like buying yourself a massage and that's all it is, or like treating yourself to like, I don't know, new electronics are great. I love them.
So day off.
maybe you want to start a podcast and you started on your, what are they called? AirPods or whatever, which have great sound. Maybe that's what you start on. And guess what? It has great sound. You can manage that, but maybe your treat is that you get a really nice mic because you've now done 6 months of episodes. You're gating your listeners. Maybe you're done 6 months on YouTube and it's time to buy a new camera. That maybe is better in low light. Maybe it's going to give you better clarity. Like, people don't give a shit about your equipment. They care about your content. And then your reward is upgrading. Like, it could be little things like that. And that's
it's like everything I've done started on a TV tray, drawing and using a shitty phone to take pictures to post on Instagram. Yeah. My whole side hustle started on a TV tray.
Yeah. And the best thing about this is there's so many resources now where, if you're listening to this, you're already miles past that beginning stage because you're being resourceful and that there are resources out there. I think about the times that I took pictures of my work and it's a joke. Like in the beginning, it was a joke. And, I'm constantly improving. Of course, I'm not a pro photographer, but like my flat lays look better than they did 5 years ago. And there are resources now. I was just thinking about that because you said TV tray and I'm thinking like warm lighting, dark shadow, like all the stuff that I went through. So yeah, yay you. I just want you to maybe this is your milestone of this month is listening to a podcast that will push you to take action. Like, that's pretty cool.
If it was, we want to hear it.
Yeah. Celebrating those little milestones, not just consuming this information, but actually taking action. Things like that will, and you know what? I want to give people an actionable item because it's my jam.
That's what we do here.
Right? Okay, good. I don't even know. I'm like, this is what's going to happen. I'm just going to take this over. But I want you guys to think about your one main thing, and you might want to do a million things and that's fine. But right now it's about one thing and set up a plan for it. And it doesn't have to be, oh, you're going to be a success with 100,000 YouTube followers by this time. No, it's about maybe by this date, how many pieces of content do you want to put out by then? And then you can do milestones in between that. Maybe those milestones look like you batch work and you have 20 videos ready to go. They're done. So how is that going to happen? You need to film them. You need to write the content. You need to film them. You need to edit them. How does that workflow look? Right now, it's overwhelming. But when you actually put that in a plan, I love Asana. It's what I use, ASANA. Everyone keeps thinking I say like Asana. Let's go in there and sweat. But I love it. And that's what helps my brain because it's color. It's simple, but it's color coded for my projects, which I love. However works for you, Evernote, a planner, whatever it is. You're not going to make any progress when you're comparing yourself or when you're sitting in your fear or when you're feeling stifled or when you're just ruminating and overwhelmed. Like, you're going to make the progress when you put pen to paper, like, or what's another phrase like that? You put gears to
pedal to the floor, gears to the grind. I don't know. Put your nose to the grind. Maybe it's something like that. Put your finger in your nose. I'm going to
just start coming up with my own, when you put your shirt in the washing machine, like you're not.
Yeah. And then I want to add to it. Once you get your steps and your plan set out, take action on the first step. Yeah. Planning and preparation is dope, but go make a move.
Yeah. And only look at the first step because that's all that's right there right now. Like, that's it.
It's like you can't climb Mount Everest overnight. It's about checkpoints.
And what's beautiful about it is when you start going down the progress road, I like how this turned into productivity, but I mean, that's what it is. It's bursting through your own mindset and doing it. You just have to act. But the beautiful thing about those tiny steps is if at that point you run into a hurdle, you only have that one hurdle to figure out. You're not looking at this big picture and the whole, you don't know what you don't know yet. That's going to come up organically and you're allowing it to come up. It's, what do you do if your faucet breaks? Okay. Most of us are going to hire somebody, but I actually didn't. Oh, I'm proud of myself. I actually did repair my faucet. It was like 5 years ago, but I did do it. All on my own. Thank you. I had no idea how, but you figure stuff out, right? Like YouTube, hey, there's resources out there. So
my whole existence of me taking this side hustle to where I'm at today has all been on my own, figuring it out. Like I didn't learn any of this in college.
No,
I learned how to use Adobe Illustrator a bit,
I hear that,
but it's self-taught.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. And it's only from people who have been self-taught. They tell me, and you probably have this experience too, where your mentees or people who have, been in your community or whatever, who have learned from you. Have you heard the phrase multitude of times? I've learned more from this structure than I ever did in my X amount of years in grad school.
Yep.
Yes. And you know why? It's because it's coming from people who had to go through all of the grind, all of the dirt, and had to sort it out, because they don't teach you that stuff in school. They teach you a very vague overview of what, I can't say this. I didn't go to school, so I can't actually
say that. I went to liberal arts school and got super deep in debt and played college football and got an injury and was just put on my ass with not the greatest education because of a lot of applying, and then some of the curriculum, and then just scared of the world and not prepared. So it's been a long way climbing myself out of a hole. But I'm like, if I can claw my way out, or you can build an empire teaching yourself going against the grain, then I think what we're trying to say is it's possible for anyone. But it starts in between the ears.
100%. Yes. Yeah. And I know, I'm just thinking about, in hindsight, like these things that we have been talking about. And I know that I'm just thinking of myself as a listener. And I want you to not just listen. Like, that's so important. It's not just to listen. These types of things come up. Like, we need constant reminders to break out of our mindset. We need constant reminders to create more, consume less. We need that. I need it. And these types of conversations for me are that. And then I'm going to get off this call with Scotty. I'm going to stop talking to y'all, and I'm going to feel like driven myself, because we all need it. So if that means an accountability buddy where you can talk stuff through with, Scotty and I talked about that when we joined, when we started this mastermind that we're in. It's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing so much, and I've been in my own head for so long, and I didn't have an outlet to actually talk through this stuff. Maybe you don't find an answer, but at least you have that dump where you can just word vomit and get all of those fears out. You can get all of this rumination out. Maybe it doesn't go anywhere. Maybe it does. Maybe you have a small epiphany that's going to actually pull you out of the rut. It's so important to be able to and maybe that is listening to a podcast and hearing people who are expressing the same things that you're feeling, so that you're not alone.
That's the big thing. You're not alone. Everybody's dealing with the same shit. Like hearing like you and Becca on the same level, the same shit I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Like this is normal. It's just a part of the head games that come along with blazing your own path, building something that is important to you, and going against the traditional system.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what you're signing up for. And I don't think people are realizing the waiver they need to sign.
Right. Oh gosh, I love that phrase. It's so true.
Never said that before. That's going to have to be something else, but there's a waiver to sign to build
to go down. Write it down right now.
Oh man, my notes. So anytime I'm like looking down and people are watching video, I take mad notes.
I know. I do it sometimes. It's usually, I feel like there's so many nuggets that from this talk, I just want to write down, and I didn't, but
this just all makes it SEO friendly. And this is my intro, my outro, my content post. I just type it up. Yeah, it's SEO now. Yeah, that's what it's.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. That's hilarious. It's so true though.
Well, as we land the plane here, I could keep talking all day, but I want to respect everyone's time. Where can someone go to follow you online, support you? And if there's something you want to see us follow up on and go deeper on in terms of a topic, maybe when the stars align, we could go deeper on a round 2.
Yeah. So I thank you. I appreciate that. Everything that might ever be needing to be found at any place lives on the pigeonletters.com. So you're going to find everything possible. You'll find my socials, which are also just the Pigeon Letters, but you'll find courses and all the things. I have a resource. I'm trying to think of a word that isn't. I'm a resource giver there. I like to overshare. I think that over time, so my main things are the flock community. It's the flock. It's for creative entrepreneurs, and not so much. It is art driven and design driven. So photographers, fine artists, things like that. But it's a space that is overflowing with info that I give lessons on, but it's also a space to connect and ask questions and things like that. But I also have, these larger courses and also bite-sized courses that will help with pricing and things like that. But I love to overshare. It's my jam. It's my favorite thing ever. I am an open book. What you see is what you get. There's no sugarcoating that. So thank you for that. I appreciate it because I need y'all just as much as you need these resources, because this is how we make waves, if you will.
Dude, we can't do it without you. So I really, really appreciate it. Let's stay in touch. I hope you had a great holiday and your 2022 has just been booming.
Thank you. I love talking about the future like this. I hope the same for you. Ooh, New Year's resolution ?
For me?
Yeah.
Mine, I don't like New Year's resolutions. Resolutions are flaky in my opinion. So it's New Year's habits for me. And my ongoing habit for like this 4th year running is do less, but better. That is my continuous habit. And add to that is stop operating out of fear. That's probably another big one that I'll be.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's so perfect because you're not. Yeah. I love it. I feel the same way. Like I try every year and I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. I know I'm going to fall off 2 months from now. Okay. Done. Thank you so much, Scotty. Thanks to everybody who made it this far. I appreciate y'all. And don't doubt yourself for a second because you got this.
Woo. Peace.
Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show on iTunes and give it a rating and review.